3 days after 3-2 Atlas passed Mars, the World Space Agencies remain silent. No images, no press briefings, no data releases. NASA cites the ongoing government shutdown, which began just 48 hours before the flyby. The European Space Agency says observations are still being processed. But the most unusual silence comes from China. Tianwen-1, its Mars orbiter, has released more than 14,000 images since 2021, often within days of capture. Yet this time there is nothing. No statement from the China National Space Administration, no mention in state media, no public acknowledgement that the encounter even happened. In a moment that should have produced a flood of images and analysis, the absence of information is now the most remarkable data point of all. Under normal circumstances, such an event would have been a global showcase of capability. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, ISA's Mars Express, ExoMars TGO, the UAE's Hope probe, and China's Tianwen-1 were all positioned to capture an interstellar visitor's close approach to another planet, a configuration unlikely to occur again for centuries. The encounter promised a torrent of data, a rare opportunity to study a traveler from beyond the solar system at relatively close range. Instead, it has become a void, a coordinated, echoing silence spanning every major space-faring nation. NASA's excuse at least has a paper trail. The U.S. government shut down halted press operations, froze communication channels, and forced most of the AY's outreach teams offline. The shutdown's timing starting on October 1st, 48 hours before the flyby was, if not suspicious, certainly unfortunate. But bureaucracy cannot explain the silence from others. Remains fully operational. China's mission control runs independently of Western systems, and yet both have mirrored NASA's quiet. China's lack of response is especially striking because it runs counter to its established pattern. Tianwen-1 is not a discrete scientific probe. It's a political symbol. Since arriving at Mars, it has shared panoramic surface maps, global topography datasets, and color imagery with striking regularity. Beijing's space program thrives on visual propaganda. Every image is a message, every achievement a statement of capability. When the United States falters, China usually steps forward to fill the silence with spectacle. But this time, it has chosen to stay silent too. That choice doesn't just break precedent. It reshapes the story entirely. If China had released imagery of a standard comet, irregular and dusty, it would have gained prestige while exposing NASA's bureaucratic paralysis. The fact that it hasn't implies something else, that the data itself might be politically or scientifically explosive. And 3 Atlas gives ample reason for discomfort. Long before its Mars encounter, astronomers cataloged a list of anomalies that no natural explanation comfortably fits. The object's carbon dioxide to water ratio is around 8:1, a deviation so extreme it challenges established models of how icy bodies form. Its spectrum shows an abundance of nickel without corresponding iron, an elemental imbalance inconsistent with known stellar chemistry. Despite active outcasting, it exhibits almost no measurable non-gravitational acceleration, meaning the jets of vapor escaping from its surface are not altering its course as they should. Then there's its trajectory, threading improbably close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, a series of gravitational flybys that statistical modeling suggests has less than a 0.005% chance of occurring naturally. Observations also point to an unusually high mass up to 5 orders of magnitude greater than other known interstellar objects of comparable brightness. And its surface polarization, the way it scatters sunlight, is unlike any comet or asteroid ever studied. And to that, a lack of diatomic carbon emissions, the faint chemical signature that defines most comets, and a calculated age between 7 and 14 billion years. And 3Y Atlas begins to look less like a random fragment of rock and more like an intentional survivor of deep time. A recent analysis circulating among researchers at several institutions put those numbers through a Bayesian statistical model. The result was extraordinary. A Bayes factor of roughly 10 to the 28th favoring an artificial origin over a natural one. The authors didn't endorse that conclusion outright. Professional caution demands restraint, but the math is hard to ignore. Still, Even the most dramatic probability doesn't prove anything. Science lives and dies by data. The real question isn't whether 3 Atlas could be artificial. It's why the people who have the data refuse to show it. History offers some clues. In 2017, when the first interstellar object, Oumuamua, swept through the solar system, the data took weeks to emerge. Scientists debated whether its acceleration was caused by ice jets or by something more exotic, perhaps even propulsion. In the end, the uncertainty lingered longer than the object itself. But those were the days when delays were measured in weeks, not total blackouts lasting days after the event. Now, with multiple spacecraft and international redundancy, there should be no shortage of information. And yet, the silence deepens. A coordinated blackout across rival nations is almost unheard of in planetary science. Normally, competition accelerates publication. Each agency races to be first. Data releases are a matter of prestige as much as transparency. When that instinct suddenly vanishes, replaced by identical vagueness, still under review, awaiting analysis, no comment at this time, it suggests communication behind the scenes. The quiet drafting of a shared narrative before anyone speaks publicly. If all 5 observing spacecraft recorded something that defied natural classification, the next steps would shift from science to diplomacy. There are protocols for such situations drafted decades ago by the scientific community during the era of SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. They advise coordination, verification, and consensus before public disclosure. The first rule is simple. No unilateral announcements until the data is confirmed by multiple independent sources. That process, depending on the nature of the evidence, can take days, weeks, or longer. Which means that right now, humanity could be living in that pause, the quiet moment between discovery and declaration. Of course, there are mundane explanations. Instruments may have malfunctioned. Data may require calibration. Perhaps the images are simply low quality or scientifically inconclusive. But even those possibilities fail to explain the uniformity of silence. China's space program in particular does not wait for international verification to promote its successes. It broadcasts first, analyzes later. That it hasn't done so this time is the most compelling sign that the information is being deliberately withheld. What could possibly justify that? The answer might lie in the nature of the images themselves. A fuzzy point of light would be harmless, but a sharp structured shape, regular angles, reflective symmetry, or motion inconsistent with natural rotation would instantly transform a cometary curiosity into a planetary security concern. Governments might not fear what it is, but rather what it represents. Proof that something else out there builds, navigates, and observes, and that by any measure would be civilization shifting. Behind closed doors, agencies would verify the data, rule out instrumental error, simulate possibilities, and coordinate a joint statement to control interpretation. The public would see only the end product, the polished consensus released after the fear, disbelief, and bureaucratic wrangling had settled. Until then, silence would be the only acceptable response. It's also possible that this silence isn't hiding a discovery, but a failure. If none of the orbiters manage to capture useful data, agencies might be delaying to avoid embarrassment. But that explanation struggles to hold. With 5 spacecraft equipped with high-resolution instruments, it is statistically implausible that every one of them failed simultaneously. Even partial or low-quality data would normally be released to maintain credibility. Instead, we have nothing, a clean, coordinated void. This void is what makes observers uneasy. Silence in science is supposed to mean humility before evidence. But here it feels strategic. A pause not of doubt, but of containment. Outside the official channels, small fragments of activity ripple through amateur networks. Radio operators monitoring deep space bands have reported bursts of encrypted telemetry from the Mars region, consistent with downlinks from multiple orbiters. Such signals are routine. Yet the timing aligns with the expected data transmission windows for the 3I Atlas observations. It suggests the spacecraft are active and communicating even if the agencies are not. Meanwhile, independent astronomers continue to track the object from Earth. To them, 3 Atlas remains a dim carbon dioxide-rich body moving steadily toward the outer solar system. It shows no visible tail, no dramatic flare of activity. Nothing on the surface appears extraordinary except for the way everyone with the best data refuses to talk about it. That refusal paradoxically becomes the story. For decades, nations have competed to dominate space through openness, images, press conferences, live streams. Every mission is a stage. When the show abruptly stops, the silence itself demands interpretation. Perhaps this is a rehearsal for a new kind of diplomacy, one that extends beyond national interest into something planetary. If all 5 agencies truly saw something that transcends current understanding, secrecy might be less about control and more about consensus, a rare moment when rival powers realize that some truths belong to humanity, not to governments. But there's another possibility that the silence reflects uncertainty, not unity. That each nation is waiting for someone else to speak first, fearful of being wrong about something that big. In that sense, this moment may say less about what's out there and more about us, about how fragile our confidence becomes when faced with the unknown. For now, 3IE Atlas drifts outward, indifferent to human speculation. It recedes into the cold, quiet, dark between worlds. A faint, unblinking point of light that cares nothing for our politics, our pride, or our panic. Its secrets are locked within encrypted data streams that no one will release, sealed behind the walls of national laboratories and closed-door committees. Whether it is a natural relic or a constructed artifact, one fact is already beyond dispute. It has accomplished what decades of diplomacy could not. It has forced the most powerful space agencies on Earth into uncharacteristic agreement, a synchronized, deliberate stillness that stretches across borders, languages, and ideologies. If that agreement stems from caution, the world may soon exhale in relief. The images might emerge. A grainy, unremarkable comet tumbling through space. A frozen shard of another solar system, ancient but natural. The silence will dissolve into science papers, press briefings, and the comforting hum of normally. But if the quiet continues, if the days stretch into weeks without a single frame or statement, then the implications grow darker. Silence can protect information, but it can also protect people from information. It can mean that what was found is not easily explained, not easily classified, or perhaps not easily believed. The absence of answers leaves only questions, and those questions grow louder by the day. Did the orbiters see something structured, geometric, mechanical, deliberate? Did they capture emissions or patterns that defy physics as we know it? Or did they simply find something that challenges our understanding of what natural means? The longer the silence holds, the more those possibilities fill the vacuum left behind. Either way, 3 Atlas has already changed the conversation. It has transformed the idea of discovery itself. For generations, we've imagined first contact as a spectacle, a signal, a landing, a moment of revelation broadcast across the globe. But maybe that's not how discovery happens. Maybe it comes quietly, wrapped in secrecy and hesitation. Its significance measured not by what is shown, but by what is withheld. Somewhere out near Mars, an object from another star continues its journey through the dark. Untroubled by our curiosity, unbothered by our politics, it has crossed unimaginable distances to reach us. And now it recedes again into mystery, followed not by applause or revelation, but by the quiet hum of orbiters that saw something they're not ready to reveal. In science, silence is rare. In geopolitics, it's deliberate. In history, it's often the pause before revelation. And until that revelation comes, the story of 3 Atlas will remain not about what we've found, but about what we're not being told.